Hello and welcome to another episode straight out of GLG Gaming's Retro Gaming Garage. Now this is a special one, I'm going to say that right now. If I say the word Bullfrog to you, in gaming terms, you're going to think of that creative hub that was making some pretty amazing games back in the 80s and 90s. Halcyon days they were. Games like Flood, a little favourite of Sean's on the Atari right there. The Magic Carpet and the Dungeon Keeper series. But the reason we brought you guys here is to talk about two particularly special titles from the Bullfrog stable. Theme Park and Theme Hospital. That's right. We're going to do a retrospective on these two games for you. And unlike the retrospectives you might see on YouTube, you know, a load of footage is cobbled together, bit of voiceover on the top, or, you know, a crummy let's play. Nah, GLG have done it different as always. Instead, we've gone and interviewed two folks that actually worked on these games. And those folks are Mark Webley and Gary Carr, producer and artist, respectively. Now, Mark and Gary were keen to talk about Theme Park and Theme Hospital with us, explain every facet of the design and creative process. It was fascinating to listen to them. And they are, without further ado, going to be running through the two games that changed the face of the RTS, the real-time simulator, and made the genre fun again. My first question to them, not surprisingly, was, what was the thought process behind Theme Park? Roll the interview.
Well, Theme Park was Peter's idea.
Yeah, Peter went to Japan. I was on the original Theme Park. I was the artist at the time, and Peter went to Japan and had this idea to make a very colourful game with characters with big heads. That was kind of in vogue at the time, and so he wanted slightly bigger characters than we've done previously. And I guess the idea was that theme parks were huge in Japan, and he felt, look, they're like a cultural thing that people go to all the time in Japan. And I think he felt there was a game in it.
It was a brilliant idea because Roller Coaster Tycoon didn't exist back then, and you kind of think theme parks now. What a brilliant idea! What a brilliant idea for a game. And I mean, I remember seeing the really early versions, and I guess that was before you had done any art for it. Was using popular sprites as rides and sort of like a little simulation going of people, walking around the park, which didn't look anything like a park, and going into little building huts and getting all their stats. And that's kind of white box approach.
I actually hated it, the game, when I first worked, and I've said this before. I just felt it was such a departure from the kind of serious. I felt pop powermonger and populous more represented Bullfrog, and then we were doing this quite cutesy looking game, and that's before I actually knew what the game was going to be. So my initial instinct was not to like it. I actually didn't think it was a good move, but of course it was an amazing move because it was a brilliant game. Yeah. But initially I had reservations about the idea.
Yeah. But I mean that was definitely Peter's baby. Yeah, he came up with the idea for that, and he was the main programmer on that. And Gary, in fact, you left and went to Bitmap Brothers.
Yeah, I actually hated it so much I left Bullfrog, and I didn't come back myself soon. But realised it's such a great game. But I left about halfway through development of the theme park. I just didn't get it. I didn't think it was going to be a hit, and of course it was a smash hit.
So that's the making of Theme Park there, but we weren't quite done with it yet. The ride wasn't over. My next question was, what fond memories do you guys have from working on Theme Park? This is Aaron.
I mean, I think it was quite a unique game at the time. Yeah. I think, it sold amazingly well. We actually, as Bullfrog, which is quite a small company then, we actually managed to get Theme Park onto just about every single machine there was. So I think we did the Sega Saturn, the CD32, the SNES, the 3DO even, which is one of the few games, I guess, that got onto 3DO, if you even know what a 3DO is.
Most of the time ran the department that put it across everything, and I would agree with that. I think the proudest thing for Bullfrog at the time was we made a game which transitioned onto different platforms. We were traditionally an Amiga developer at that point, and PC was just starting to take off, but this Theme Park was the first thing that really worked on console. It went on to handheld. It just had a broader appeal than anything we'd done before.
Yeah, and I think it was definitely a game which opened our eyes to the world, the wider world, I think, of female gamers as well. I think Theme Park was certainly a game which attracted more female gamers. I think Populous, Powermonger, and a lot of games, a lot of games around then were probably more boysy kind of games. But I think Theme Park, and then I guess a few years later Sims came, and that really sort of blew that wide open in terms of
Yeah, I mean, I said it in the last question. We were making something that wasn't typical of boys to make at the time. Boys generally make something quite destructive, and this was a quite constructive idea. It was very colourful, and it was very much a broad, appealing game, and I think that wasn't an intention, by the way. We don't sit there and think, how do we make this work for guys and girls? It just came about that way. So that was quite a big thing at the time.
Stop the ride, stop the ride. We're out of here now. We're moving on to a hospital, not in a sad way, in a fun way. We're on to Theme Hospital now. We're talking about Theme Hospital with Mark and Gary. And my first question about Theme Hospital was, why Theme Hospital? Why make Theme Hospital after Theme Park? And this is their answer. It's a good one, believe me.
The Theme Hospital idea was to begin with, it was actually quite a tricky kind of topic. And I mean, I think in terms of how do you make a great game? You kind of start with like a crappy idea, like let's do a theme hospital. I mean, and then the obvious thing is, oh shit, that sounds rubbish. And how are we going to make this fun and interesting? And so it kind of, we were saying today, weren't we, Mark? We were saying that when we first had the idea. Well, we were doing the research. We spent about 2 to 4 weeks doing research. We don't often do research, but this was a difficult game to start. It felt like it needed a bit more of an idea of how hospitals work. Yeah, and what they look like. I mean, when you think about a theme park, it's colourful, it's big, cool-looking rides. You go to a hospital, I mean, you walk around, and it's grey, and it's got like dull rooms, and everything. A lot of rooms look the same. Yeah, a lot of rooms look the same. They have just slightly different looking machines that aren't really obvious what they do. And we just thought, where do we make this? Visually, where are we going to go with this? And also from a content point of view, how do we decide its tone? Because death is quite sad, illness is quite, people don't like to talk about illness. So how the hell are we going to make a game of this? And it was funny, it was one of the last days of our research trip. And our research, we were filming operations, and we were speaking with heads of hospitals who were telling us how they, make money from illness, and it was all very dry. And then they asked us if we wanted to go to the mortuary and the morgue in the afternoon after we worked for lunch, and we were just like, no, this is ridiculous. But I think we had the idea at the same time, just to make up the illnesses and make up the cures, because we felt unconfident that we could actually get it right anyway. We're not medical. Yeah, because there's a sim version of a hospital where a doctor could look at it and actually learn something from. And then there's the entertainment side, which, and the chances of us understanding or becoming doctors and actually knowing how the bloody hell it all works, pretty slim. And so, I mean, in fact, it was Gary's suggestion that we should go for made-up illnesses. And I think I wasn't in favour of it at all. I thought it would just trivialise the game. And but in hindsight, it's absolutely.
I think we got lucky that the first one we put together was Floaty Head, and we showed it to the team. What we used to do at Bullfrog was we'd have a thing called a Friday review, and we had multiple games in development back then. There was probably about 5 or 6 games in development, so every sort of 6 weeks or so it would be your turn to do a Friday review, and these were quite nerve-wracking. We always felt we were at a disadvantage because of our game wasn't, a dungeon crawler or an underwater game or a superhero game. So we felt, oh God, how the hell are we going to show this off? And we just got Floaty Head in, and we just took people through the diagnosis process, and then into the point where the character gets cured. you remember, it had quite humorous popping of the head, inflating of the head. And everybody sort of like burst out laughing. And we got a massive response from it. And suddenly, I think we realised, actually, we're onto something.
Last up, I asked Mark and Gary about the designing and the design process, the look of Theme Hospital. How do they get it looking? It's so good. And their answers and the closing part of the interview is great to listen to. It's going to be coming up right now. Before I go, so I want to say to you guys, thanks for watching, and an even bigger thanks to Mark and Gary for taking the time to talk to us. Thanks to 8Ball for being great sponsors, and also thanks to PC Games N who have ran this interview on their website. There will be a link to this popping up on the screen and also on the video. We've had a great time talking about these two amazing games, so I'm going to run the last part of the interview, and I hope you guys have all enjoyed it. Till next time, right?
Our original plan when we got going was actually, let's do current day, well, kind of a bit of a twisted kind of current day hospital, and then we'll do a Victorian hospital or medieval straight Victorian.
And there was future as well.
And there's a future hospital. I mean, very cool to imagine all this medieval stuff. And there was absolutely no way we'd have had the time to do that.
And it didn't need it. But like it happens a lot in development. You think you need more than you've got, and we just thought, we need to do hospital through time, and you just didn't need it. The game had enough going on anyway in the one time period. Yeah. So it could very easily have been a medieval hospital game if we'd have started on that one. We just happened to start on the sort of present day, didn't we?
I'm glad we did.